Hey, if I tell you what noise canceling earbuds I got in, does that mean that I'm sponsored? Like, you know, say something like, earbuds, listen to music, listen to podcasts, ruin your hearing, earbuds. Nah, maybe that works, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna get to cutting. The sword bar's coming out because it's not even really attached to the car. Told you it was barely attached. Last thing holding this headliner in, if I'm correct. Wish me luck. Wires are already cut. It's so gross! So much rat dirt! So gross. I don't need this in my race car. What do you do when your neighbor's being super loud, playing loud music? Well, you come over here, throw a battery in your race car, turn the power on, and look at that, no fires. I believe it's alternator, water pump. Let's turn the water pump on. There it goes. Pumping water for the first time with the new radiator. Yep, it's moving in there. That's good. Water pump off. Fuel pump on. Let's see if we have any leaks. Nope. Right out that rear bowl. Great. I wonder if I have any leaks anywhere else. Doesn't look like I'm leaking. No leaks back there. Don't see any drips. I'm going to teach y'all a little trick to figure out if your float's sunk or not. On this Holy carburetor, of course, you can take the needle and seat out through here. I made sure to count the turns. On my way out, I'm about 4 3/4. You know, just for documentation purposes there, I told you that. Shut up, you stupid chickens. Anyway, just take a screwdriver in here, set it down. It's now sitting on the float arm, and I can push it down just a little bit. And here, that float's in there moving. It comes back up, so my float's not sunk. Just screwed in my needle and seat, 3/4 of a turn, called it good. I did set my fuel pressure down a little bit just for safety. Now the neighbor over here, he's, last I checked, listening to Black Sabbath, which I'm fine with. It's just really loud, and I'm going to try to annoy him. You know what, now I hear he's listening to Are You Gonna Be My Girl? He's crazy, trust me. He yells at random people. Mission on. I shut the car off because I seen smoke and was afraid it was coming out of the alternator. No, it's just burning off a crap ton of oil. Makes me feel slightly better. I do need to figure something better out with this here throttle cable because this is not set up correctly. And it's kind of hard to push. Alright, since this thing's not one to run too awful well, I came over here and checked, and this distributor shaft Here, let's do it this way. This distributor shaft has a ton of play in the body. Camera doesn't really want to focus, but you can kind of see whenever I advance this all the way, those points are moving a significant amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten up the points gap just a little bit. You see, this spring is enough to push this distributor shaft all the way over towards this side whenever it's just spinning off the starter. Well, once this thing gets some RPM, the distributor shaft will kind of center itself through centrifugal force, and it will cause the points gap to open up some. So I'm just going to close this gap down and see if that'll help me out. Now, of course, if this does fix my problem, what that means is I'm just going to go get a new distributor and swap all the guts out of this one into a new body with better bushings. Because the distributor shaft, it starts wobbling around like that, you really just need to replace the bushings, which I don't feel like doing. So just swap out the entire distributor. I got a working volt gauge. I've never actually wired one of these things up, funny enough. I need to put a tack in this car, but there's not really that great of a place to do it, so I've come up with an idea. For my best view, I decided that the tack is going to have to live right in here. But obviously there's not much of a space for this to bolt down to, so I'm going to have to build a small little plate, and I'm probably going to have it go from here across and just bolt right down to there. But in the meantime, I have a slight bit of wiring left to do. By the way, something that the original builder of this car did originally, builder, is put duct tape down, or in this case, that looks like aluminum foil, and then Bondo over it. Stuff like this is all over this car, and I don't like it. I'd rather just have Calvins here, Or if you're gonna cover this up, cover it up with sheet metal, not Bondo. I know this doesn't actually get the car built, but it makes the car nicer for me. So it's a few weeks later from the last little bit on this car that you got to see, and I'm over here just trying to figure out what I can't do to make this thing run right. Yep, that's right, I got the intake off. I'm replacing the valley pan. This old one over here was all mangled up from me pulling it off to check the cam and everything whenever I first got the car, so brand new valley pan is about to go in. Before I do that though, I'm going to take off this paper gasket that's on this intake. I don't exactly trust that to do anything, so I'm going to get rid of it and see if that'll help fix my running problem. Intake's all back on. There's men at work way over there across the street, and the neighbor across the pasture's listening to Lumberjack by Jackal. The guy's crazy, but at least he has decent taste in music. But power's on the Scamp. Fuel pump. Make sure that I don't have any fuel leaks. Sounds like I'm about out of gas in there, but let's see what I got. Got fuel there. Got fuel there. Cool. That shiny valley pan gasket is confusing me. Makes me think that it's wet. Remember, boys, it's gonna be loud. Ignition on. Crank. Oh, by the way, tack's in, but it is obviously not wired. Well, that's close to idling it's done thus far. I'm going to fiddle with it, see if I can't get it to idle now. So I reset the dwell, hooked the meter up to it. It was at 50 degrees of dwell, which it wants to be at about 30, so that's my own fault. I'd been fiddling with it, just trying to diagnose, see what was going on, and I increased the dwell quite a bit, more than I should have. Anyway, it's set to 30 now. That'll give me effectively 10 more degrees of timing at idle, so we'll see what happens. Fuel pump, ignition. Still no dice. Still no dice. We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for a hailstorm. And it's the biggest hail that I've ever seen in my life. Off on different tangents, what once had Bondo now has a steel plate covering it up. Next, I'm gonna knock off all of this filler in here, which by the way is factory. As you can see, I already started doing it on this other side. Eventually I need to get to this ugly cowl, knock off all of the Bondo from here, so that way I can cut this out and just weld steel plate over it. And then I'm actually gonna primer this roof. I don't like the fact that it's got bare metal all over it. Got a little hole here and, you know, over here. A couple of them along here that apparently had a piece of trim. I'm gonna weld those up too. Yet again, I know it doesn't get the car moving down the road, but it makes me feel better. Makes me feel a lot better. Plus I get to practice my body work on something that's inconsequential. Filling holes with the welder and, you know, making patch panels and whatnot completely devolved into, hey, let's scuff and paint this roof. You know, most people are gonna think this thing looks kind of crappy, mostly because of stuff like this. But hey, I filled the holes. Well, I filled most of them anyway. Bunch of extra holes popped up in this corner, but I think she looks pretty snazzy. Looking like a race car there, don't it? Yeah, there's the bumper now. I did go through and just kind of give the radiator quick fog so that way the aluminum wasn't so super shiny. Still bugs me. This is a driver's side headlight bucket in the passenger side of the car. Yeah, I don't know why it's like this, but I'm gonna have to find the correct headlight bucket so that way my headlight is actually oriented, not 90 degrees off. Now the roof here, of course, is only primered. You know, the entire roof here took 1 can of primer, the entire can. So I got 2 cans of spray paint. I'm gonna give this thing a nice coat of semi-gloss. Why semi-gloss, you might ask? Well, that's because the local green store, that's all they had in the Duplicolor lacquer. They didn't have flat black, just semi-gloss. So at least it's not gloss black. I'm gonna give this roof a nice wipe down with a rag to make sure all the dust and everything's off of it, because it has been, you know, 2 days since I was last out here. It's rained, it's, you know, wind and everything. There's dust. I live on a dirt road. So we'll get this thing cleaned up, get her finished painted. But before that, I am gonna finish my coffee. That's 1 coat and an entire can of spray paint down. I think that the semi-gloss will do all right. Gives it a little bit of shine, but it doesn't quite accentuate all the dents this car has. You know, it's entirely possible that the hailstorm we had the other day damaged this thing up pretty bad, but I don't know. I don't remember what all dents were in the roof. Here's a little tip for you though. The can gun. I got this one from Harbor Freight, but you can get it from any of the, you know, parts stores and whatnot. I know the local O'Reilly has them in stock. These things make spray painting so much nicer. You're not sitting there with your trigger finger going off and getting all wore out and whatnot. You just get a nice little squeeze and it makes painting with a spray can so much nicer. Trust me, get one of these things. It'll save you a lot of cramping. Thing I like about the Duplicolor, doesn't take very long before you can handle it. Let's see what happens whenever I start peeling off all my masking tape. Now some of y'all may be asking why I would go through all the trouble to paint this roof. Answer is, I really just don't know. I just had a hankering to paint the roof, I guess. Ooh, nice sharp line. Look at that. Now, of course, I'll probably end up painting this entire car. I just wanted to do the roof real quick. There it is, all the masking tape is off. I did touch up this spot a little better. You know, I just didn't like the way that that other can of spray paint left streaks all over. The Duplicolor just, you know, it flows a little easier. But now that that's all done, I get to try to make the car run again. My tach is completely wired up. My fuse panels are all done. Well, maybe I ought to call it a block instead. And every single switch works. That's right. This car is completely done with the wiring. I can finally say that I've wired a car front to back all by myself from scratch, even though it's the simplest wiring I could have ever possibly done. So now, back onto the subject of trying to get this thing to run. You'll notice, first thing, I've got a new throttle bracket, cut the cable to length, so the pedal is a lot easier to push. But secondarily, you'll notice there's no choke horn on this carburetor, because this is the 700 double pumper that is typically on my 71 Satellite. You know, Project Gold Rush, I like to call it sometimes, even though I find that name a little silly. But this is a known good carburetor, so what I'm hoping is that with this on here, it'll actually idle, because this thing runs flawlessly on that 318 that's in the Satellite. So the battery for the Satellite is in the car. Let's go ahead, turn the power on. As always, no fires. Let's hit the fuel pump and make sure that I'm not overpressuring this carburetor. Perfect. Ignition on. 2 pumps. The car's definitely sounding different. First time I've ever heard this thing truly idle. There it is. This 400 that just 4 months ago was stuck, it's idling. Sounds pretty good. I think I'm gonna call that quits for this particular video. Now that I can get it to idle, I'm gonna do a little bit of fiddling with it, check timing and all that good stuff, check my dwell, and you know, just overall make sure that the thing's in decent operating condition. But with that, hope y'all enjoyed.